this video we'll go a little deeper into how the optical character recognition OCR system works within Business Central. So we touch on this lightly in the seminar demo where we more or less are looking at how an application, a third-party application, fits into Business Central so it looks completely seamless, but this is a little bit more in depth into the functionality of that application. So we're looking at Business Central client, and here we have 16 records ready to import. So they might have been scanned and imported in. It might be that vendors and suppliers are sending invoices direct to an email address. Customers might be sending purchase orders direct to an email address. However they got there, they're ready to be imported in, and we can then go ahead and import our files. Our files have imported, and now the 16 ready to import have now moved into ready to register. So we can select that, and here we go. We've got 12 purchase invoices and 4 sales orders ready to be recognized. So if we come into the 12 purchase invoices, so it's important to note here that this is the first time that we're essentially looking at these suppliers. So there are no templates. In the seminar we had templates there, everything was already registered. So this is how does it register for the first time. So if we do that and we come into, so we're doing number 1, process and recognize fields, this system does its best interpretation of what it thinks those fields should be, and it's pretty accurate here. It's picked up the invoice number, the invoice date, the due date, etc. So there's 1 or 2 things we still need to complete to get this invoice ready to be posted, so we can do that now. If we just scroll down here, so ordinarily you would check and notice that the template has started to have been built here, and any changes we make here will be updated on the template. So I'm just continuing to scroll down here, and eventually we get down to, okay, what GL code do we want to post this amount to? So we can do the usual lookups and things along those lines, but I'm just going to type my GL code straight in. And then what are we going to use as a GL code description? So it's just confirming the GL code there. And the description we actually want to pick up from the invoice itself. So to do this, I've selected the posting description and the amount there, and I just need to draw around where the description would be, and I'm just using a left mouse click here, highlight it, and there we go, and it's ready. So we'll continue to scroll down. There's no more errors here. We are good to post, so we can come into now process and register, and this will then create a purchase invoice within the system. There we go. There's our purchase invoice all ready to be processed. We have approvals on at the moment as well, so we can't process any further, so we can now send that off for an approval request. So once that's done, and we now have our template set against Lewis Home Furniture, anything else that will come in the future in Lewis Home Furniture will automatically be registered. So we can come into process now and recognize the fields of those 2, and that would ordinarily be set, and those are already all set now to be processed as invoices. So you're hoping in these batches that everything will have templates. When you eventually get there, you can register the entire batch and then post the entire batch as well and get everything to come through in one go. The next question from that is, what happens if I have lines on my invoices, or the initial registration of the fields doesn't quite work? So if we use this as an example here, and we come into process and recognize fields on this one, we notice that it hasn't got the invoice number correct. It's picked up one of the dates instead of this area here, so we need to go through the process of registering that correctly. So we just select the incorrect field, and we just then select the field where it is, the area that it is, and we just right mouse click there to draw around the invoice. So the invoice is going to be in this area here, and we get an orange box there, and if we left mouse over the number here, we then get the proper registration. Very, very similar for sort of registering the lines as well. To register the lines and have the template update for that, we need to come into document card and then come down to lines. So where would the number be? And all we're registering here, because there could be 1 or 20 or 30 lines here, so we're not going to register each individual one, we just need to register the column headings. So we come into number and then start to draw around these. So again, right mouse click for the orange one, so the description will be here. Maybe should have extended it out a little further so I can redo that. Extend that out to there. And then on to quantity. That will be in that area there. Unit cost in this area here. And then the final line amount, which would be in this area here. If I then do process recognize fields, it will then also recognize the lines. So not quite there yet. So these references are probably the supplier's references, which may not be our stock references, so we need to do a translation here, and you would then be typing in your stock codes. All it's doing here is using the standard cross-referencing facility within Business Central to basically say the supplier refers to it this way, I refer to it that way, or the customer refers to it this way and I refer to it this way as well. Once we're done there, we can come into process and register. And that one's registered too, and I'll just send that one off for approval as well. So the next step on from that is, well, what happens if I have lines that refer to a purchase order? So selecting this one here called Wood Technologies, I have a purchase order number over there, and same as usual, process recognize fields. It goes through again, does its best to recognize all of these things out. And if I come into process and match lines, and it's then starting to recognize out the lines as well. So all I need to do is come into process and perform match, and I've got my matching here. Again, it's just an example. You have your document order lines for your document purchase orders here. You have your receipts as well. It's just the usual matching technique that you do with any other purchase invoice, but ultimately again you're looking through to be able to process and register this back on the lines themselves. So if we just close that out, and we can process and register. And again, we can send that off for approval. Obviously, there's probably loads of different scenarios in this, which is why it caters for an incredible amount of variables. So if we come in and take a look at one of these templates, there's a whole raft of settings behind the scenes how we can deal with each vendor or customer slightly differently and have it processed in different ways, and whether the lines are registered or not, and what rules we need to follow that way. So it's all part of the configuration and setup of the OCR to be able to match as much as possible and reduce down your keying. So the only other element of this we haven't looked at yet is the approvals side. If we take a look at the purchase invoices that are sitting there waiting approval, we notice that Richard Lum needs to approve these 3, but this particular one Richard Lum needs to approve, and then it needs to move on to Annette as well. Using the Continia add-in, I'm logged in as Richard now. I can use my mobile device to approve these items, or I can use a web browser version, and we can come into the records and then approve these as well. So here I've drilled in. I can see what the approval process is. This one is me and then internet. I can approve, I can forward, I can put on hold. I'll just approve that through, and I can do next and obviously view the documents and things along those lines, and reject or approve or do whatever I need to do. So I can reject for whatever reasons we put into the system. And continue to process through as well. But ordinarily as well, I can, if I have a BC client, I can also come through and do the approval process in the BC client. So multiple ways that we can get in and approve these invoices. So that's it. So that's an overview of the optical character recognition add-on that GCC recommend for Business Central. Thank you.